Number 10. Australian Night Parrot. The Australian night parrot was found by accident in 1990 by a bird expert that worked at the Australian Museum. Walter Boyles was able to spot the mummified corpse of an Australian night parrot just lying by the road after it had been smacked by a truck in mid-flight. Why is this so interesting? Well, the Australian night parrot was first recorded as a species way back in the year 1845. But then, less than a century later, in 1912, it vanished. Everyone had just assumed the bird was now extinct. As it turns out, the Australian night parrot is simply so rare that no one was able to see it for almost 80 years. According to a new study, the Australian night parrot is nocturnal, but still can't see very well in the dark. Luckily, the guy that found the bird on the side of the road, Walter Boyles, does. It's likely that the bird's vision is similar to that of daytime parrots. The fact that this bird hasn't adapted very well to the dark, despite being nocturnal, could play a major role in why it is now critically endangered. The rarity of the night parrot goes beyond its elusiveness. It's one of the only 2 nocturnal parrot species anywhere on Earth. The second species is the kakapo in New Zealand. After 1990, it would be 23 years before another night parrot was spotted. It is so rare that scientists only have 1 intact skull to study. Now, conservationists and scientists are working together to try to revive the species and increase their number. Nobody is sure how many are left, but researchers are guessing it's not a lot. Number 9. Neanderthals. Believe it or not, one animal that may be brought back from extinction is the Neanderthal, or our very own ancestors. Professor Svante Pääbo, an evolutionary geneticist at the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology, has successfully unraveled the Neanderthal genome. By using the gene editing technology known as CRISPR, he's now trying to distinguish what separates humans from Neanderthals. He has claimed that because of today's technology, sequencing an entire Neanderthal is still a ways away, but he's hopeful. However, since we can theoretically put together every last piece of the Neanderthal genetic code, all we need is an advancement in our tech to create a biological replica of the Neanderthal. We would do it the same way that CRISPR can determine the color of a baby's eyes ever before it's born. But instead of just genetically determining the eyes, we could genetically construct a Neanderthal, in essence bringing back the caveman. But of course, even if we do develop the technology for it, some serious moral questions need to be answered before a Neanderthal is ever brought back to life. There are ways to de-extinct a species, and these techniques are always advancing. Number 8. Jurassic Park. A man named Max Hodak, who you might know as the co-founder of the startup Neuralink, recently boasted on Twitter that if we wanted to, we could build a literal Jurassic Park. However, nobody quite knows what he meant by we, if he's talking about him and his buddy Elon Musk or the world at large. Hodak claimed that Jurassic Park could be built within the next 15 years, but he did go on to say that we probably won't have legit T-Rexes. Instead, we would have other extremely exotic species. He never gave any exact details on what these exotic species might be, though. It's unclear if we're dealing with monkey-giraffe hybrids or elephants modified to look like woolly mammoths. But considering Max Hodak is on the cusp of creating human cyborgs by linking our brains to computers, a park full of wild, dinosaur-like animals doesn't seem totally impossible. Why anyone would actually want to bring back the dinosaurs is a mystery. Haven't you seen the Jurassic Park movies? It seems a little too obvious to say it's simply a bad idea. Just like Jeff Goldblum says in the movies, your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think about if they should. What do you think about the possibility of having prehistoric creatures come back to life? Let me know in the comments below, and if you're liking this video, be sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Number 7. Woolly Mammoth. A group of Japanese scientists claim to have made a breakthrough in cloning a woolly mammoth. Cells were recovered from the corpse of a mammoth that lived 28,000 years ago, and they appear to show signs of life. These cells were covered from the left hind leg of a young mammoth retrieved from the Siberian permafrost in 2011. The cells were then successfully implanted into the cells of a mouse. What this means is that the cells belonging to an extinct animal are currently alive again. Unfortunately, it's a large leap to go from functioning cells to a fully developed mammoth. Still, it is a breakthrough in bringing extinct animals back from the dead. Scientists hope the technology they are developing can actually be used to prevent a species that's alive today and on the verge of extinction from disappearing forever. We probably won't see a woolly mammoth in the next few years, but we are getting closer. Number 6. Bermuda Petrol. The Bermuda Petrol is thought to be extinct for over 300 years. It was rediscovered and then nursed back from the edge of extinction thanks to a few dedicated civilians. Prior to human settlement on Bermuda, the Bermuda Petrol, also known as the cahao, was abundant. But then when humans arrived in the 1500s, the bird quickly started to go extinct. After 1620, there were no records. Nobody saw it again until 1906, but researchers learned that it was a mistake at that time and could not actually be identified as the Bermuda Petrol. Centuries later, 2 specimens were found dead in 1935 and 1945. It wouldn't be until 1951 that an expedition finally confirmed that the petrel was alive. The bird was living on just 5 small islets in Castle Harbor. At the time, there was only an estimated 17 or 18 pairs. The Bermuda Petrel was under attack from all angles. The sea level was rising, there was hurricane damage, and tropic birds kept showing up and killing their babies right inside of their nests. It was a man named David Wingate who constructed specialized entrance holes to deter the tropic birds from stealing the chicks. He also helped restore the area and turn it into a nature reserve. Thanks to these efforts, the last census taken in 2018 showed 125 nesting pairs of Bermuda Petrel, meaning they have, for all intents and purposes, returned from extinction. Thank you, David. Number 5. Giant ground sloth. Sloths today are extremely slow and relatively pretty harmless. But their ancestors? They could grow to be 20 feet or 6 meters long, reaching the tops of palm trees when they stood upright on their hind 2 feet. This was the giant ground sloth, and it weighed 3 tons, 6,000 pounds. This giant ground sloth lived all over the world about 1.5 million years ago. In 1991, construction workers found the fossilized remains of one of these massive sloths near Randall Parkway. The skeleton is on display at the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences in Raleigh. And even though it currently just looks like a pile of old bones, it now has the potential to become a living creature once again. According to Dr. Nathan Crow, scientists are researching ways to bring back the giant ground sloth as we speak. Dr. Crow also says there are 3 main ways to bring back this last animal. They could try breeding modern sloths to reproduce larger and larger sloths, though that's a long shot. Another way is by taking the nucleus of an extinct animal's cells and putting it inside a living egg to develop an embryo. The third option is genetic engineering, which is honestly beyond complicated. Unfortunately, even the most reliable options only have a 5% chance of working with our current science. Even though scientists are trying desperately to resurrect the giant ground sloth, we may still need better technology to do it. Number 4. Elephant shrew. The elephant shrew is not an elephant, and it's not a shrew. It is a tiny, adorable mouse that has finally been rediscovered in Africa 50 years after it was believed to have gone extinct. The last scientific record of the elephant shrew came in 1970. Then in 2020, an elephant shrew was spotted in Djibouti, near the Horn of Africa, during an expedition undertaken by scientists. Believe it or not, the elephant shrew is small enough to fit in your hand and is most closely related to aardvarks, manatees, and yes, elephants. They have noses like elephant trunks that they use to slurp up insects. That's just how crazy Mother Nature is. During the expedition, researchers used over 1,000 traps set at 12 different locations, baited with peanut butter, and witnessed approximately 12 elephant shrews. Apparently they are fans of peanut butter, but come on, who isn't? Now the challenge is to track them and ensure their survival in the harsh African region where they live before they go extinct and stay extinct. Number 3. Dodo Bird. Remember in the Ice Age movies there were all those silly dodo birds? They were real. 1 million years ago, the great ancestor of the modern Nicobar pigeon landed on the island of Mauritius where there were no natural predators. This bird ate itself into the enormous bird we know today as the dodo. Then, the Dutch sailor showed up in 1598 and wiped them out, creating one of the most infamous extinction events of a single species in human history. In just 75 years, the dodo was completely gone. Today, scientists are working to bring the dodo back. Why? Why not? One of the biggest challenges is that DNA breaks down very quickly in warm climates, where the dodo used to live. It's not like the DNA found in woolly mammoths preserved in the Siberian ice. It was thanks to dodos brought over to Europe and preserved in Copenhagen that scientists were able to sequence their DNA using stored bones. A scientist named Beth Shapiro recently sequenced the genome of that first bird we talked about, the Nicobar pigeon that is still alive today. As the closest relative of the dodo, this pigeon is critical for resurrection. The trick now is to somehow clone the dodo using primordial germ cells from the pigeon and editing the DNA with CRISPR. But scientists need to find a surrogate mother and father, and because the dodo was so much bigger than the Nicobar pigeon, they're thinking of using emus. Can you imagine? The hope is that within just the next few years, the dodo will be brought back to life. And to be honest, if any animal is coming back from the dead first, it would probably be the dodo bird. But I think I'd prefer that over a T-Rex. What about you? Number 2, woolly rhino. A woolly rhino has been thawed after spending 40,000 years frozen in ice. Scientists in Yakutsk, Russia, announced the thawing of the 8-foot or 2.4-meter long rhino, which they say perished during adolescence. Dr. Valery Plotnikov claims the preservation of the rhino is very unique. They even found its horn nearby in the snow. The animal probably died from drowning, as it lived during a time when the Earth was heating and much of the ice was melting, creating a swamp-like terrain throughout Siberia. As for bringing this incredible animal back from the dead, things are looking pretty good. According to the New York Post, geneticists and paleontologists have been trying to revive the woolly mammoth thanks to all the available DNA. And now that there is so much woolly rhino DNA becoming available, we could see these animals being brought back to life at the same time. Number 1, elephant bird. Scientists at Harvard University have finally assembled the genome, almost 100% complete, of a small bush moa that went extinct in the late 13th century after Polynesians settled New Zealand. According to Scientific America, this has seriously increased the chances of reviving the bird, known as the elephant bird, by slipping its genome into the egg of another large and flightless bird. In this case, an emu would probably be the best option. Who knew that emus would be so helpful in reviving lost species? Stuart Brand, co-founder of the group Revive and Restore, says that every improvement in ancient DNA analysis increases the probability of de-extinction. He's working extremely hard at the moment to resurrect the passenger pigeon. But the bird elephant is a little ways off, seeing as it was a huge and ferocious creature, unlike the small and wimpy passenger pigeon. The elephant bird's DNA was reconstructed all from a toe bone taken from a museum specimen. Experts are confident that within just the next few years, New Zealand could once again be home to giant flightless birds like the elephant bird. Even more terrifying and dangerous than the emu or the cassowary. Thanks for watching. Which animal do you want to bring back from extinction? Which animal do you definitely not want brought back? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe for more awesome content. See you next time. Bye-bye.